Hey guys, so today we are going to be talking about the disappearance of Nicholas Barclay. Have you ever heard about Nicholas Barclay?
Yes.
Good. So, this is my Roman Empire. This is the story that I will never get over. I will never get over it. Any of the things that happen, because there's so many questions, it's not solved, and so many crazy things happen. So Nicholas Barclay was 13 years old in June of 1994. He lived in San Antonio, Texas with his mother, and his mother's name is Beverly Dollarhide. Now, Nicholas was really small for his age. So he's 13, he's only 4'8" and 80 pounds. That's like the low end of the scale. Super small kid. He's already kind of getting into some trouble. He's in the juvenile court system. He, at 13, has 3 tattoos. He has a letter L, a letter N on his outer left ankle, and a T or a cross in between his pointer finger and thumb. Now, Nicholas's home life, it wasn't great. Beverly was a heroin addict. So she's a heroin addict. She knows she's an addict. She's actively trying to break her bad habits. So she's kind of a functioning addict, if you will. She's maintained a job. They have a home. You know, her addiction has not taken everything from them at that point. She's trying to break the habit, but she still admits that she does have a heroin problem, which could probably contribute to some of the things Nicholas would get into. So, like I said, Nicholas, he had been in trouble. He had actually stolen shoes from and threatened a teacher. A teacher. He had broken into a convenience store, which, it's not funny, but it kind of is, because can you imagine a robbery and like the person
being that tiny,
him being that small, him being 4'8", like what are you gonna do? So again, Nicholas doesn't have the best home life. He's getting into trouble, but he's also getting in physical altercations with his mother. So they are having physical fights. So much so that she feels like, okay, there's not a male figure in the house for him to look up to. There's, it's just him and her basically. She decides it would be good if his older brother moved in with them. Now, his older brother, Jason, also had some drug problems. He was an addict. He moved into the house, and things did not go as planned. Jason and Nicholas ended up getting into it a lot. They were not really on good terms. It made things very tense and more problematic, honestly. On June 10th of 1994, he goes to play basketball with some friends in San Antonio, and he ends up calling home. He's trying to talk to his mother, Beverly, but she's asleep. She works nights. So Beverly is still asleep, and Nicholas ends up getting Jason on the phone, his older brother. And he tells Jason that he wants a ride home. And Jason's like, I'm not waking up Mom. She's worked all night. She's tired. We're going to let her sleep. You can walk home. It'll be fine. Now, and I think he walked there initially anyway, so I don't think it was too far for him to walk.
Where'd they live?
In San Antonio, Texas.
Oh, okay.
I'm not really sure on that, but he had gone to play basketball with some friends. His brother tells him to walk home, and that was...
Night?
I'm not sure what time of day it was, honestly. But he doesn't make it home. Now, a lot of people like to talk about the fact that Nicholas disappeared somewhere between June 10th and June 13th. He was reported missing on the 13th. And a lot of people look at this and feel like they waited that long to report it. But you've got to keep in mind, this is a kid who gets in trouble. He's run away before. He always comes back.
But it was normal.
Right, so they're kind of waiting for him to come back. But on the flip side of that, Nicholas also had a court date coming up. So this was a mandatory court date. He had to be there. So he had to be reported missing because he couldn't just not be in court. So the 3 days, I feel like there are multiple things going on to make that happen. They're waiting to see if he comes back. He's got this court date. He may have run away because he didn't want to go to court, but at the same time, they have to do something about him not being present in court. So that can kind of go either way. What does end up happening is he doesn't come back until, according to Jason, he caught Nicholas, and I'm not sure if this was days, weeks, months after he disappeared, trying to break into the garage. Yeah, break into the garage of his own house.
Yeah.
Jason claims that he caught Nicholas trying to break into the garage, and when he got caught, Nicholas ran. So he reports this to the police, and nothing really comes of it. So the search for Nicholas continues. It continues all the way until 1997. So in 1997, the Dollarhide family, because everybody in Nicholas's family, Nicholas's last name was Barclay, but everyone in his immediate family, their last name was Dollarhide. You had Beverly Dollarhide, who is the mother, Jason Dollarhide, who is his older brother, and Carrie Dollarhide, who is his sister. Okay? The Dollarhide family gets a call in 1997. Now, it's been 3 years since Nicholas has been seen. Guess where the call comes from?
Spain.
Spain. Linares, Spain. There is a youth shelter there that claims that they have a boy that says he is Nicholas Barclay. And the family, of course, is overjoyed and super confused. How did he get from San Antonio, Texas,
All the way to Spain.
all the way to Spain? But it doesn't matter. They're super excited. And what ends up happening is Carrie Dollarhide, his sister, her work actually does a fundraiser to help her go to Linares, Spain to see him and see if it's Nicholas and bring him back. So Carrie, after a couple months, and which, I mean, that's got to be a hard wait, a couple of months to be able to
See your brother.
to go get him, and
Yeah.
he's been missing. Insane. But Carrie flies to Spain, and she goes and she meets him. And she agrees. This is her brother. This is her long-lost brother. They've been looking for 3 years. Ecstatic. Now, Nicholas has quite the story to tell about how he ended up in Spain. He claims that he was essentially trafficked. He was kidnapped by a pedophile ring. Now, this pedophile ring consisted of high-ranking people in multiple countries: Mexico, the US, Canada, Spain, France, all these different places. And that he was trafficked for 3 years. He had been through this horrible ordeal. And so Carrie's like, okay, this has been awful, but it's time to bring him home. But, and this is kind of genius in my opinion. One of the judges in Spain for this city, whatever kind of township it is, whether it's a city, whatever, for Linares, decides, wait, we can't just give this 16-year-old kid to this woman with no proof. Like, we can't just hand her over and let her take him overseas on his word and her word, which is smart.
Yeah.
So what he decides to do is he pulls up family photos. And he gets Nicholas to name the people in the photos. He kind of points to a person and goes, okay, who is this? And how do they fit in? And Nicholas answers all his questions. So they're like, okay, this is obviously Nicholas Barclay. Let him go home with his sister. So Carrie brings him home. And when Carrie brings him home, there are a couple of things that are just a little strange, but are kind of chalked up to what he had been through. I mean, he had been through this horrible ordeal for 3 years. So the first thing is that Nicholas Barclay has blue eyes, but the Nicholas returning from Spain has brown. Yeah. So he would later tell people that the traffickers who had him, they had injected things into their eyes, some type of chemical, to change the color, to make it be harder to identify them. People are looking for Nicholas Barclay as a 13-year-old with blue eyes, but now they're not blue.
That's odd.
It's very odd. The next thing is that he stays really covered up. Like, he gets off the plane, and there's video footage of this. He gets off the plane in San Antonio, Texas. It's hot in Texas. Wearing a baseball cap that's kind of pulled down over his eyes, a scarf that's completely wrapped around his neck. I mean, just completely covered. But again, a lot of people are going, okay, he's been through something horrific for 3 years. This is just his way of kind of insulating himself from the outside world. But the final thing that's so bizarre is that Nicholas speaks with a decidedly French accent on his return. Yes.
I don't know if you can pick that up that quick, but
We're going to get there.
okay.
We're going to get there. So, in an odd turn of events, Nicholas, when he returns to San Antonio, he doesn't go back to home with Jason and Beverly Dollarhide, his mother and brother. He ends up living with Carrie and her husband and her children. Yeah, which is a little weird, but okay. He seems to be adjusting fairly well. He's going to school. He has a crush on a local girl. Like, considering everything that he says he's been through, he seems to be adjusting fairly well. But during the 5 months that he's with Carrie Dollarhide and her family, the FBI are super anxious to talk to him because they need to know what happened to him and try and catch the person that did it, as well as trying to get him, some mental health resources. He's going to need a lot of counseling, a lot of, experts helping him along the way. So the FBI are finally able to set up an interview with Nicholas. They have a lot of questions for him, as well as some psychologists and psychiatrists and other experts set up to talk with him. But a few things become very clear while they're talking to him. First of all, again, this is 1997. You can't change your eye color by injecting a chemical into it. First of all, and again, this is just my own little opinion, I feel like that would cause blindness. First of all,
Definitely.
you wouldn't be able to see anymore. It's not a thing. They also talked to a linguistics specialist, and he says, yes, it's possible that Nicholas could have picked up a French accent while he was in captivity, but he would have very, very quickly lost to that accent once he was back home in Texas. So things just aren't adding up at all. So not only are the FBI questioning, is this really Nicholas? Or, at this point, who is this person? Because they're pretty sure it's not Nicholas. There's a local PI named Charlie Parker who is also starting to question who this person is, because he also does not believe that this is Nicholas Barclay. Now, as things are kind of closing in on the person claiming to be Nicholas Barclay, he ends up fleeing. He steals Carrie's husband's car and makes it all the way to Oklahoma. Yes.
Okay.
And he's brought back. So at this point, the FBI have figured out who this person is. And it's not a child. This is not a 16-year-old. This is a 23-year-old French con man. His name is Frederick Bourdain, and he's wanted by Interpol. He has assumed and impersonated at least 500 people.
500.
500. 3 of those being missing people, like missing adolescents. So what he did here, he did to other people. where he went to families and was like, it's me, I'm your missing, child, teenager, whatever, and tried to convince them. There is a full documentary on him, basically, on this specific instance of him impersonating someone, on him impersonating Nicholas Barclay. It's called Impostor, and you can watch it for free on Amazon. I highly recommend it. It's really interesting. His personality and the traits that he shows are just, they're fascinating to me, I guess. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about Nicholas. And a lot of podcasters talk about Frederick Bourdain and how much attention he got, honestly. Anytime you bring up Nicholas Barclay, you have to bring up Frederick Bourdain. But now we've got to backtrack, because this isn't Nicholas. So where is Nicholas? What happened to the real Nicholas Barclay? So we're going to go back to right after Nicholas disappeared, and we're going to talk about some things that are kind of strange. First of all, for the family to believe that this was Nicholas in Spain, this impersonator was him, that means they would have to believe that Jason was lying about Nicholas trying to get into the garage. He could not be abducted and be anywhere else and trying to break into the garage. And again, I go back to breaking into your own garage.
At your own house.
Yeah.
With your own family.
And your brother catching you, so you flee.
Yeah, it's
And
odd.
you catch your brother and you call the police. Like, this isn't an adult sibling trying to break into someone's house. This is a 13-year-old missing child. It doesn't make a lot of sense. The next odd thing we're going to talk about is, during these 3 years that Nicholas is missing, before the family gets this call from Linares, Spain, police are called to the Dollarhide house, Beverly and Jason's home, quite a bit. And they're called there for basically domestic violence. Jason and Beverly are fighting. They are fighting a lot. And at one point, Jason makes a comment to police that it's because of Beverly's missing son. So they're fighting over Nicholas, which, again, I feel like can be a double-edged sword. It can go both ways. This woman is so heartbroken that she doesn't know where her 13-year-old child is, that it's causing stress and tension in this home. Or she suspects. I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot that could be said there. The next thing we're going to talk about is, remember the judge in Linares, Spain?
Yeah.
And him making Nicholas go through pictures?
Yep.
And he knew all those people? Yeah. Do you know how he knew all those people?
No.
Yeah. Okay, so Carrie brought photos. The judge got the photos from Carrie. Carrie had actually sat down with Frederick, pretending to be Nicholas, and went through the pictures with him. Now, again, this is one of those situations where it could be something completely innocuous, or it could not. Because think about it, she's going to see her brother, who has been missing for 3 years, which doesn't seem like a long time, but think of it in terms of he was 13, now he's 16. That to me makes it seem like so much more, because there's so many things that change in those 3 years. So she's bringing pieces of home to him and trying to talk to him and trying to, reassure him, your family's still here, that, these are the people that love you and that are looking for you. So from that angle, I can see her doing that. But then you have the other side of, okay, did she know that this judge was gonna make him name these people and prove that he was who he said he was? So the whole situation is just bizarre. Again, Frederick goes back to San Antonio. He doesn't go to live with Beverly and Jason. He goes to live with Carrie. Jason would actually only interact with Frederick once. And he lived in San Antonio with this family for 5 months. He interacted with him one time. And that interaction itself was kind of strange. There was some type of family get-together. Everybody is there. Now, Jason has been in rehab. So the fact that he wasn't there when he got off the plane with everybody else and they haven't seen each other isn't too strange considering he's been away. But he's been back. He hasn't seen him yet. He comes to this family gathering, and all he says to Nicholas is, "Good luck." And that was the last interaction they ever had. Jason would actually overdose on cocaine about 2 months before Frederick was found out. So do with that information what you will. Was he just an addict that, couldn't overcome his addiction? Was he feeling guilty about? I mean, there's so much speculation out there about it, but it's just another odd piece of the puzzle. The strangest piece of information to me is, remember when I told you about the FBI taking Nicholas for questioning and to get him some mental health resources and things like that, and they start kind of suspecting that maybe this is not Nicholas. Well, they actually fly, Nicholas and an FBI agent actually fly to wherever they are doing all of this testing and questioning and all of this stuff. And before they get on the plane to come back to San Antonio, this FBI agent calls Carrie and tells her, "We don't think this is Nicholas. We think this person may be wanted by Interpol." So she essentially tells her, "You have a criminal in your house that is not your brother, okay?
That's freaky.
And you don't have to come pick him up at the airport. Like, you don't have to come meet us. We'll take care of it. It's fine." And this FBI agent was actually interviewed in Impostor, and she talks about it. She talks about getting off the plane with Frederick, and there's Carrie. She has come to get Nicholas and take him home. So again, I want to reiterate that Carrie is married. She has children. Now, on the one hand, I get it. You want this to be your brother. You don't want your brother to be missing. You want him home, and maybe it's easier to say this man is my brother, to not have to deal with what happened to Nicholas or where he could be or what could actually be happening to him. But you also have children, and you're just going to let a potential international criminal who, again, you don't know what crime it was. It could have been violent. It wasn't, but it could have been. Stay with your kids. Stay with your family. Like, the whole situation is bizarre. So before Frederick confesses to being who he truly is, the FBI go to Beverly Dollarhide, Nicholas Barclay's mother, and they're like, "We need to do a DNA test." And she loses her mind. Like, lays in the floor, pitches a fit that she is not doing that. They can't make her. Like, loses it. And I think the most telling thing is the fact that this con man, this serial con artist, this is what he did. He was 23 years old. He had been doing this since he was 18, trying to be these teenagers and basically be taken care of. He had it made for what he wanted. Nobody in that family was denying that this was Nicholas. No one in that family was questioning it. They were all happy to go along, and he was like, wait a second, my name's Frederick Bourdain, and I'm from France. Like, he told on himself. But again, it leaves the question of what really happened to Nicholas. And was this family so desperate to have their child back? Which on the one hand, I can see. I can see being so desperate to, he's alive, he's okay, he's here, I need this to be Nicholas.
They just didn't want it to be true.
that they let it be true. But on the other hand, I feel like as a mother, she had to know. I feel like Carrie had to know. This is not
Their brother.
right. So, I don't know. It's the whole situation is crazy. Nicholas Barclay has never been found. But the most insane thing to me, and this is why this case, it always sticks with me, because first of all, you've got the con man who potentially got conned by a family. The Impostor documentary is so good. Cannot recommend it enough. It's on Amazon. You can watch it for free. Highly recommend going to watch it. But the best part of that documentary to me, and not necessarily the best, but the most telling part of that documentary is a quote. And it's a quote from Frederick Bourdain himself, who again impersonated Nicholas for 5 months, living in the Dollarhide homes, being Nicholas. This is what he had to say about the situation. And I quote, "They killed him. Some of them did it. Some of them knew about it, and some of them chose to ignore it." So it's pretty evident what Frederick Bourdain thinks happened to Nicholas. What do you guys think? Do you think the family knew? Do you think they covered it up? Do you think this was just a family that was desperate to have their missing child back? It's just such a strange situation. Nicholas Bourdain himself is fascinating to me. If you hear the things that he has to say about why he wanted to impersonate these adolescents and try and take over their lives, intelligent in a sick way also, if you listen to him talk about how he convinced these people, as far as the people in Spain who didn't know Nicholas, that he was American with a French accent. I mean, just all these crazy things that he convinced all these people of. It's insane. This case just, it blows my mind. It's so
Odd.
Yes, it's so twisty. Let me know in the comments below what you think happened to Nicholas. Bye, guys.